Welcome to NIL4U. I'm Rob Finkelstein, founder and CEO of Alumni Direct, where we've created a platform to help athletes and other alumni network and connect. I am also the host of another podcast called Athletes and Entrepreneurs, the Alumni Journey, where we talk to former collegiate professional athletes about their transition out of sports. And the reason I bring that up today is I'm very excited. This is my second podcast. I did the other one with Orlando Arnold. I'm doing this one today with Orlando. How you doing, Orlando?
I'm good, Rob. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to always be on with you.
Sounds good. Yeah, you're welcome. It's a pleasure here as well. And Orlando is the founder and CEO of Pyramid Sports and Entertainment. They are an agency that covers Major League Baseball players, NFL players, and he started out playing baseball at Alabama State and took that passion and love and now is giving it back, helping out his athletes in all different aspects of contracts and marketing and all that. He's also an expert on NIL. So excited to have Orlando on. We also have, as always, my buddy, my favorite co-host here, Coach Trent. How you doing, Trent?
Yeah, I should be your favorite co-host. I'm the only other co-host we got. So I'm always excited to be joining NIL4U with my good buddy Rob Finkelstein. And man, excited to talk to Orlando today. I mean, obviously share this college baseball environment. I went on into pro sports and coaching. Orlando and he and I both have pivoted now to the entrepreneurial world in athletics. And I just can't wait to hear a little bit about from a Major League Baseball agent, NIL, all the things that are happening. There are just lots of opportunities out there and a lot of fun. And of course, Orlando's got a very great background. Miami guy now, but played in the SWAC, the HBCU. Wait, I'm saying it wrong. HBCU.
There you go, Trent.
Just slow down, man. I just got to slow
You,
down.
you had it. You had it. You were going through it. So I wasn't worried.
Yeah. Well, I just love the SWAC. I love the SWAC, man.
It's hard in the SWAC.
It's hard in the SWAC, man. So
Right.
I love that. Alabama. A lot of people don't like, hey, you see Alabama. Everyone thinks Crimson Tide, right? They're not thinking of Alabama State, the SWAC.
They
So,
do.
but talk to us about that journey, man. Talk us to about starting out, coming out of school. Did you know, like, hey, this is where I want to go? I want to be an HBCU school. I want to play ball. Did you have a couple different opportunities? Just you were focused on this sport? Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Detroit, born and raised.
G-Town,
And so,
yes.
yeah, that's right. So for me coming out, obviously I'm a diehard Michigan fan. That's where I wanted to go. I had some interest from like Eastern Michigan, Indiana Tech. I received some. I wanted to go to Miami, LSU, and Florida State. Those are like my three. I graduated high school in 2000, so you can imagine the height of baseball amongst those schools. It was some of the highest that it was in that era. And obviously those schools are back on top now. But that's what I watched, and with my mother being from the South and me visiting the South, Alabama specifically, every summer I knew that, compared to the Midwest, the summers were longer. They started school earlier, the weather was better. And so I knew almost instantaneously as I began varsity baseball in high school as a sophomore that I wanted to go south. Barring say like Michigan saying come play, I wanted to go south. Now, my mother's an HBCU alum of Tuskegee University, but I didn't know right away that I wanted to go to an HBCU. Um, but just the way my recruitment went, like I said, I had interest from a few Midwest schools, some heavy interest actually, and then I had the schools that I wanted to go to. It was more walk-on letters or just come check us out. But then, you know, Coach Larry Watkins at Alabama State offered me a as close to a full ride as you can get in baseball. Um, and I had some other HBCUs recruiting me too. And then once I did my research, and I think we mentioned this before in talking, is it's the same division in terms of the Division 1A athletics, and then it's an opportunity to be in a historically black college university. I relish at the opportunity to take that, and it's one of the best decisions I ever made.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, as a fellow Michigander, Rob, I don't know, you're like big minority on this call now, bro. Like, I don't talk to anybody about Delaware, but like
New Jersey,
my
actually, where I started.
Oh, Jersey? Is it Jersey? Is that right?
Yeah, I went Jersey to school at Delaware to South Florida.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the typical path right there. Jersey to Delaware to South Florida. So you're like a bird, fly south for the winter, man.
That's
So
right, and just stay.
And just stay, yeah. So, I was the same, Orlando, man. My high school played in 3 state championships in Michigan. I played over at Battle Creek Lakeview, and we went in, and I thought, man, I can't wait. I'm sure Arizona State's gonna call. I'm sure, needless to say, I didn't wait by the phone. They never really called. So I was like thinking that yes, I wanted to play in the South, but that was a trial and a challenge for us Midwestern guys. And of course, Derek Jeter grew up about 20 minutes from me in Kalamazoo, and
yep.
and he did fine. Michigan did offer him, and he just took the Yankees deal because they offered him a lot of money. So no one offered me a lot of money, so I played at Toledo, and so that's where I kind of ended up at. But it's funny, man. Midwest baseball is a different thing, and so you can't wait to get down to the South and stop taking fastballs in on your hands, because you learn to get the head out when you play up north. Like, you do not want to get sawed off in that weather. So
more importantly, you don't want to get sawed off, nor do you want to miss it, so badly that your whole forearm is vibrating.
Oh yeah.
Or a funny story was really put a nail in the coffin of me coming south. I was the ace my senior year, and I opened up opening game April 16th. I remember it like it was yesterday. We were playing our rival.
Balmy 34. What was the temperature on that day?
It's about 40s. But wait, here's the kicker though. It was 40s, but it was still cold enough that it would produce snow. Right? And so as I threw first inning, got the first guy out, and then I think I had a 1-1 count, and I threw a curveball. You know how out of nowhere, you know this, and you probably know this too, Rob. Out of nowhere, snow just starts coming, almost like rain.
Yeah.
When I released the pitch, it was clear. As it started curving to the zone, it hit a snowflake, and it started snowing in the middle of the second inning. And at that moment, I said, "Yeah, it's it. I have to go south."
Get out of here. Yeah.
It's April 16th. I live in Miami, and on January 27th, it's 85.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it was good times, great memories, but it was for the best that I kept moving south.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Detroit Redford.
Oh, Redford. Good. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, let's talk a little bit about. First of all, we're going to jump into highlights.
Sure.
Orlando, did you know, like, when you were 15, 16 years old? I mean, are you thinking like, hey, I'm going to play in the major leagues for 20 years? Are you thinking like, I'll be the next whatever, or you're thinking like, hey, I'm probably going to be an agent, or did this happen more so as an adult and you pivoted to things?
Yeah, I didn't know I wanted to be an agent when I was at the age of 30. So I'm 41 now.
Okay, what were you doing at the age of 30?
I was working in pharmaceutical sales.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Nice.
yeah, I didn't know that I wanted to be an agent then. And so it just happened. I've always been around the game. I've always still coached youth sports. I was an RBI director for Major League Baseball in their youth wing in the state of Alabama. Because after I got to college and I graduated, I just stayed there for a while. I kept getting good jobs, good opportunities, good careers. And you know how there can be one thing leads to another, and you look up, it's been 15 years. So for me, I kind of stayed in it. And now the one beautiful thing about Alabama in the deep South is that you look up, it's somebody in some playing on Sundays or playing in Major League Baseball or going to the NBA or playing overseas. You have so much talent in the South. And that's not to say the Midwest doesn't, but you don't think it's there if you don't know, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so living in Montgomery, being close to Atlanta and Birmingham and these other surrounding major cities, or you realize there's a lot of talent in and around these areas. There's a lot of talent in the Montgomery River region area as well. So I say all to say is that I had colleagues and buddies that I had known since college, um, but then that went on to play professional leagues, whether it's the NFL, whether it was the MLB, and I just kept hearing stories about representation and the inadequacies in it, and I just decided that if I was going to help make a change, I need to strap up the boots and get to work. And so I had already had the education because I had my MBA, so I didn't have to be a lawyer. And then I just did research on what it took to be an agent, how could you do it, and took the test, passed the test, formed this company, and it was subsequently moving to Miami as I was doing it. And so I've been doing this for nearly 8 years now.
Nice.
I hadn't looked back.
Nice. And your agency represents both pro athletes and college athletes for NIL?
Yeah, so NIL, we work with in types of NCAA student athletes. And then obviously on the professional side, Major League Baseball players, NFL players, and a few um, athletic executives.
Nice. All right. Well, let's before we dive into some of the headlines,
Mm-hmm.
tell us the most crazy NIL deal you've had so far that just is like how it came together, what happened, one of these ones that's just not standard. Talk to me about that.
Well, I had a deal that I was doing for a player, and it was random because this company, I just so happened to send out a blanket email, um, in this company, BarkBox actually, and I didn't even think they were going to email me back, and in turns I was like, hey, by the way, do you have any players at this school, this school, this school? All right, they said, oh, we're not really looking at, we're new in the partnership space. This was 3 years ago, almost subsequently when NIL started.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out what we want to do and how we want to do it. But by the way, do you have any players at this school, this school, this school, this school? And it was the big brands. Your Alabamas, your Auburns, your Texases, Ohio State's, Michigan, USC, etc. And I said, yes, but why? Um, they wanted a player that so happened to have a dog, um, to do almost like an infomercial for their new Bark Box treat box that was going to be college football themed.
Mm.
And I was like,
That's cool.
it was cool. It was a great idea, but I never thought about NIL in terms of pets.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, that opened up a whole new train of thinking. Like,
Oh, yeah.
there's another market out there for my guys that have pets and post their pets. So the way we structured it, with working with the student athlete, um, the way, and it was funny because he had to do so many takes because he may have got the words right, but then his dog didn't do what he was supposed to do, and then the dog may did it, but then he messed up, and it was funny but nerve wracking at the same time. But they were great to work with, the company, and it was one of the most unique deals to date that I've had to help curate.
Yeah. Fun. All right.
Bark box is good. I did just real quick. I got the bark box yesterday. My Aussie Doodle jump on the counter. He expects it every month. He loves it. So,
Wow, little shout out to BarkBox. There we go. Like right here.
go.
Like, yeah. Make sure we get
There
that
you go.
sponsorship deal. Orlando's going to settle up that sponsorship deal for us on NIL4U for BarkBox, so we can do feature the NIL pet of the month or something like that for BarkBox.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome.
We're gonna shore it. Orlando, you're in charge of that, by the way. Shore that up for us, all right?
All right, we'll do that for you.
All right. So let's talk a little bit of headlines. Hit it, Rob.
Yeah, so UCLA star Kiki Rice. She was the first woman NIL in history to go under the Jordan brand, and now she's the first athlete also to get shoes. So she has her own shoes, a special edition of shoe design, which I think if you scroll a little bit there, we can show our audience. I think there's a picture there of the shoes that she has, or maybe not. But anyway, it's interesting.
It's not loading up my picture of my shoe.
Well, we'll skip the shoe for now. But basically, it's interesting, and we're seeing more and more female athletes, and we're always talking about. I guess Caitlin Clark has been represented on about 2 or 3 of our shows here, Trent. So I guess it talk a little bit about maybe Orlando. Give us some feedback there, just with the whole Jordan brand. Are you kind of touching on any of that with any of your athletes, or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're looking to get creative with all types of brands. I've had conversations with some of the big brands, the household brands, but I'm gonna tell you, man, NIL is so unique, and I inform every potential student athlete and their families that NIL is really all about value, in my opinion. Right? It's your quarterbacks, it's your star players, and with specific blue blood football or basketball brand. NIL is just that, and I know it's bled off a little bit into the collective space, which is really probably the best model in terms of consistency and sustainability for all student athletes. Because when you have a school that doesn't have a very strong collective, you're depending on brands to take a chance. This player may be the star of your team and may be the biggest name in your college town, but then he has some of the smallest social media value in all of America. Like, it's hard to convince a brand to get behind that student athlete if they don't see the ROI. And so I think when you're talking about the collectives, that can help supplement some of that. And so when you see a player, it's funny, people don't realize young ladies, women student athletes, pound for pound, make the most money on NIL.
Yeah.
Because they can do so many things. They can touch so many boxes. They can check so many boxes. And so I think it's awesome for her that she has this. I think it's good for Jordan brand to recognize it. They may have another avenue, another lane in making a women's shoe, because there are a lot of young ladies, young girls who, of course, always play basketball, right? But now you may have somebody to kind of help usher you in or take the torch from the previous professional women's basketball players that you had on your roster. So I think it's a dope idea.
Yeah, I love this, man. I mean, obviously, there's some backstory, and you touched on it a little bit, Orlando, that women are doing pretty well. The backstory to Kiki, she went to high school with Bronny, right? And so the Air Jordan and, everything that Bronny's doing next to his dad, it's got a lot of things going on. So Kiki's a great player. I think it's really cool. She's got the Air Jordan 38 Low Cherry Blossom. I mean, what a great name. I'm sure that's hitting the stores near you, the 38 Low Cherry Blossom. So that's a cool rollout, obviously, with 2 historic programs, UCLA and Stanford. That's when they rolled the shoe out. Very cool. And so it's very cool that we're seeing this different kind of feel, different kind of things that are going on. And I may be wrong about Kiki. It says her hometown is DC. So maybe I'm wrong about that. She has a white base with pink and the UCLA blue finish. I may be wrong about where, because maybe that was someone else that got a deal that went to school. We talked about last time, but she's a the Bethesda, Maryland girl. But very cool. Obviously, we see Livy Dunn doing very well in NIL, but primarily, as Orlando touched on, she's got a great social following. I mean, she's not starting every time in the starting five for UCLA's gymnastics team as a senior. Got a chance to watch her yesterday and, competed in floor routine, did very well, been plagued by injuries for a lot of time of her collegiate career, but she's still doing very well, obviously from an NIL standpoint, but that's primarily to her social following. And she's leading that charge of pound for pound dollars. I think Livy Dunn might be 105. So she's definitely pound for pound leading the dollars with over like $3 million in NIL deals. So let's go to this next one, Rob.
Yeah, so Christian McCaffrey from the 49ers, he went to Stanford. And what he's doing is he's done some videos for Lifetime Cardinal, their collective there, and just really supporting the Stanford athletes in their NIL. So it's interesting to see an NFL player, and I'm sure there's others as well. And that's what I wanted to ask you about, Orlando. Is are you seeing that that a lot of these professional athletes, unfortunately, they didn't have the opportunity for NIL when they were playing college? Are you seeing them kind of go back and help promote it for their schools?
Not really. No. It all depends on the relationship you have with your alma mater.
Okay.
I think though that is the best way to help your collective and help your student athletes. I mean, if you think about it, even from the Power Five level, even on down to the HBCU level, the Division II level, if you graduate, you have a better chance of being successful out there in corporate America. And so if your former student athletes are the ones pouring back into the collective, and I would say on average, maybe your student athletes are the one on average that are your higher future earners, potentially, especially the schools with a lot of pro athletes. Then you can swell up your collective. Now, in addition to the higher earners, your CEOs, your executives, your directors, your successful entrepreneurs at these other schools. If the student athletes partner with those current donors, I think that no matter what school you're at, what level you're on, your collective can swell up with resources. So I think this is a good example and hopefully a trend that started. And guys will follow.
Yeah, for me, Rob, I mean, man, I love the timing, right? Christian McCaffrey had to do the Super Bowl. And it's funny, like I was just, in my mind, envisioning Christian McCaffrey as an NIL guy in 2015 when he left Stanford. And, that's the guy who probably would have been worth more than $2 million a year, right? But legitimately, I also think, Orlando, about you and I being Michigan guys, also you, Rob, as an East Coast guy. Like, listen, I'm not watching Cal and Stanford. It's starting at 10 o'clock at night. Like,
Right.
Christian McCaffrey was relatively a bit of an unknown till we got the bowl season. Obviously, his dad was a good player for the Broncos. Christian was getting highly, highly touted as a player, but he's not getting a lot of TV time out in Stanford, being a West Coast guy. And so I'm sure in being the West Coast and entertainment in California and LA area, like that's not that far. So, they've got probably one of the best alumni in the world. So him kind of getting back, and probably my assumption is with the timing, this guy is throwing like a hook, man, of like reeling in, Stanford alumni going, hey, come back and let's pursue some support for the collective, and I
Here's
love
another
his words.
Trent, I mean to cut you off, but here's another spin to that. Is that they're going into the ACC now.
Yeah.
So they have to compete.
Yeah.
They got to compete with the ACC as the East Coast and the South.
Yeah. They're going to need some TV time, at 10 a.m. California time when they go out and play North Carolina and all of Florida State. And, well, I don't know if Florida State's a team. So, but yeah, all those teams, Pitt, everybody else, you're going to see a bunch of things happening with them, and that's gonna change the game. for television rights for sure. And so that will change the exposure for some of these athletes, which is very cool. I love it. I love Christian's words here. As his message to the athletes, it means you're powered by relentless ambition, living to defy labels, craving opportunities to shine on the pursuit of athletic and academic greatness. It means you're seizing your potential, stepping out of your comfort zone, pushing the boundaries of greatness, striving to make a difference on and off the field. For me, I think, that is an epitome of anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, get involved or support their college. And I think those words are going to resonate with Stanford alumni. And that's a powerful group, obviously. So my guess is that, Mr. McCaffrey helping out the collective will produce major returns, as well as be just another advantage for Stanford athletes to go to school. Not that they needed another one. Last I looked, they win the annual trophy for best colleges every year. Because if and Orlando, you tell me, if Stanford would have offered you, would you have gone?
I'm going.
Rob?
Yeah, if I was playing baseball, get a scholarship, sure.
It's
a great education.
Listen, I'd have played bowling there if they'd offered. I don't know what they offered, but if Stanford was offering, because it was the only way I was getting in that school. So, if they were offering to come to one of the most prestigious athletic and academic universities in, Palo Alto, California, some pretty good weather, I'm gone. You can sign me up, man, anytime. So I think this is just another powerful way they'll grow and get stronger. Rob, give us this last one.
Yes, the last one is, every week on each show, Orlando, we talk about NIL for good. And so at Ole Miss, there's 6 athletes, and I think the company is Harbor Path. And so these athletes are partnering an NIL opportunity to talk about just the epidemic of opioid use, and they're trying to make a difference. And I think for fellow athletes, it's making people are seeing that, they're listening to they like athletes. I think it's helping out. There's other schools that are involved as well with them and some other programs. Trent, give us some of your thoughts. We cover NIL for good. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the Sports Philanthropy Network has done amazing things to help athletes go and figure out how to do something like a give back very well. And so they've been involved with a lot of campaigns. Obviously, Mississippi is a unfortunately notorious state that's combating a very high level of opioid epidemic. So it's great that it's starting there. I mean, listen, there's an awareness. The athletes are aware and they're do something. I mean, I think anything, I think very similar to you, Orlando. You got a mother who was an HBCU grad, and people are taking action with their feet. You were proud and still consider that one of your best decisions to make. And so we're making decisions of where we want to be, who we want to spend time with. And if we're going to combat and do something well, you take action. And so it's really awesome that Ole Miss athletes are getting involved and taking action to a clear issue. And it's nice to see someone not just be a talking head on the news, talking about a challenge or a problem out in the world and no one doing anything about it. So I think this is really cool because, it's just shedding light on something that needs the light. And I love that.
Yeah.
I think this speaks to the goodness of the other side of NIL that we forgot that has a chance to now exist. And it speaks to, certain causes can allow these student athletes to be their spokespersons, to be their ambassadors. And before, there wasn't an opportunity for things like this.
Yeah.
And before we start getting into the minutia of pay for play, collectives, and all these other things that we think about with NIL, we forgot that this is something good in addition to student athletes getting compensated. I'm sure, Trent, you and I would have loved to get the NIL back when I was playing, but this is something that's very, very positive in showing the power of using name, image, and likeness, probably in the way that people intended for it to be initially when it got authorized.
Yeah, Well, and I think also, if I think about this, Orlando, from your firm, from your agency. A young lady comes into you from Alabama State or Ole Miss, who's done some NIL for good and said, "Hey, I was a part of raising over $25,000 a year for this cause. I did a couple other things. Please call the chief marketing officer over at Harbor Path. She'd be happy to." Um, Ken Trogdon, the president of Harbor Path, is going to go to bat for this young lady and say, "Hey, fabulous to work with. She's going to be a great asset to your organization. She got through school and had a fabulous GPA and understands some marketing or whatever her major is that could add value." So I think what athletes are learning is they're contributing to organizations now and creating value, which which we as entrepreneurs want in the future. We want you to know when you come here, you're our first round draft choice. We want you to create value here. We hired you off, and we interviewed 30 other candidates, and we hired you because you're our draft choice. You're going to come in and
Mhm.
create value. And I don't know if athletes or even students, right? Even an engineering student who has nothing to do with sports, and some fabulous engineering firm or NASA or someone that really needs this high level engineering mind. I don't know if they understand they're the first round draft choice. And this is a big deal. They've selected you, and now you need to come in and contribute.
That's a great point. Looking at it as you're the first round draft choice and understanding the value that somebody has on you and what they think of you. And so that's an awesome point there that you made.
Yeah, and I think that it just it's reiterated by people now in positions of influence, presidents of companies, chief marketing officers. It's a real chance for kids to really expand their network and help them reach that draft status, get the job you really want, be in a position that um, really takes you to where you want to go. Because I think if kids go do a good job for people like this in the world, that's going to really open up some opportunities for these kids, minus the fact of all the learnings that they're going to get from those experiences.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Rob, I love it, man. Come on.
This is great, man. That's great stuff. So we gonna close off with a Trent's tip.
Well, let's share the tip today with Orlando. Orlando,
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about um, as you see athletes coming to you,
Mhm.
there's some visions of grandeur, like, oh, hey, listen, I'm going to go sign up to school. I'm going to get $500,000 in NIL from the collective. I'm nearly assured because the last guy who caught 10 passes last year made a 500,000. Like, wait a minute, man. Let me get it to you. There's there is a misperception, misguidance, and I'm hearing parents that hear it wrong, right? Like they listen to the coach and then say, "Yeah, didn't you hear? Terrell's going to get $400,000, nearly guaranteed." And like, but he has 2,100 followers. I don't know if anyone's signing up for 400 grand, right? Like, what would you be? What are you telling? You know, how are you realistically educating your clients on what's your possibility with NIL and educating that this is real work. You get paid for value. You don't create any value. Don't worry about getting paid.
I think I start off by educating them before I become their agent and understanding and making sure that we're aligned in that aspect, right? I do that first. And then once I do that, then I talk about the different markets, the different factors. And I'm real specific about helping people understand that when it comes to collectives, I was in a situation where a player of ours, got offered, well, not offered, but it was an opportunity to once once he was a student athlete at that institution, through the brands and the partners and the collectives, he would have been able to make six figures. Now you compare that to another school that was pursuing him, and it was, you know, between, uh, you know, $40,000 to $75,000, right? And he was like, "Hey, man, no, they don't want me." I said, "Wait, wait, wait. You have to put things in perspective. NIL is not a level playing field, because you have different various levels of alumni bases throughout the country
For sure.
who some universities don't care about football. They do, but not like not like to just pour all their donor resources into NIL, right? And so you have some schools who are literally sitting on gold mines that can afford to make sure NIL packages for these new student athletes, once they become a student athlete at said institution, um, are lucrative in working with the local community partners versus another school may be a great football decision, may be the better football decision, but they may not have as many resources in terms of a collective and local brands and local partners. And so my job is to educate you on the differences and help you understand that it's not the university's fault if they don't have an up and running collective or local brands from the community. You could say it's their fault in terms of they haven't been aggressive, but you don't know the history, you don't know the situation. So they may be offering you, a nice package that seems minimal compared to others, but is it their maximum?
Yeah.
And so I try to break that down for student athletes and families, and then also try to help them understand the market. The more knowledgeable you are, the more you're not confused. And so understanding that quarterbacks, premium positions are going to get the best opportunities immediately, right? Quarterbacks, edge rushers, receivers, left tackles, things of that nature. And then from there, go based upon your play time, your seniority, things of that. And so going back to what I said first is I make sure that I educate families on that first, because when I come back to that, I know they'll understand the process of being able to go out and get that deal and break it down that way.
Mm.
So question on that, like that one question here, Trent. So basically just follow up on that, Orlando. So would you say that most athletes are probably taking the money deal, or are they looking at, I can go to this school, I'm not going to get paid as much, but I'm going to get to play more, and I'm going to get that education, that whole background of that school?
I think guys really understand that they're going to get their degree regardless. I think as long as if it's apples to apples in terms of playtime, and ability for those that want to go to the NFL, go to the NFL, along with the coaching and development, you're going to take the best opportunity for NIL, name, image, and likeness, and opportunities. You're gonna, and that's usually what happens. You take the best opportunity, unless the on-field stuff is just so vastly superior to that of the institution where you may have a better NIL opportunities.
Yeah. I think it's you brought up a whole factor. Like, this is now a significant factor in what decision I'm going to make on where I'm going to go to school. I mean, this is
Yeah,
no longer hey, I don't know if they have an NIL thing or not. Like, now it's like, hey man, you better know what options you have, and be okay with either one. Like, hey, some people have better options, but hey, that's not something I really want to spend my extra free time anyway. I'm going to pre-med program. I don't have any time to mess with that anyway, and I need to be focused on my academics. Like, fine, as long as everybody's got their eyes wide open. That's the big thing that I think. What I'm hearing, Orlando, you're always educating your clients and families are getting involved in advance of. Is that fair?
repeat that one more time for me.
Yeah, that your focus is getting a clear picture of
Yes.
what it is and what it isn't. And let's be okay with either one, because I'm fine with either one too. Like, as long as like when you signed out at Pittsburgh State, that you don't think you're going to have like $400,000 in NIL opportunities through their collective that doesn't exist, right?
Correct. I
It's
educate heavily. Now, I'm for the best opportunity. Now, let's
yeah,
make sure we understand that.
yeah,
I'm for the best opportunity, the one that makes the most sense. But yes, I'm educating along the way, because when
yeah,
you educate, there's no room to wonder.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, Rob. Having a conversation earlier today, it's going to be very interesting to see. I've seen so many businesses in the NIL space come up. They're already going under, right? There's been no movement 2 years to their business. They thought like, oh man, I've got a business that really serves the need, but nobody pays them any money to do it. So it may be ahead of its time. Who knows? But it's going to be really interesting to see the entrepreneurial community in this as things change, and then a swipe of an NCAA pen could take 1,000 opportunities out for athletes and the entrepreneurs who help support them. It's going to be interesting to watch. I know the Dartmouth thing is going to be interesting, that they're trying to create employees out at Ivy League with their athletes. That's a crazy that's a crazy thought to me. But we'll see how the old labor board thinks about that. But there's a lot going on, and if there's somebody that's a bunch of smart people out at Dartmouth can figure out, maybe that's the group to do it.
So, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. So, man, that's exciting, Orlando. I think great advice as a learning. Like, hey, when you're going to a school, come in with your eyes wide open, ask the right questions. If you don't have agency help, that's okay, but you got to get educated to what are your opportunities and be realistic in those opportunities, and know that they can change, I think that, anyone who's studying technology, we laugh about this all the time. I'm going to get a certificate in information technology, and whatever you study the first 2 years of your college will probably not be useful at all by the time you graduate, because the technology will change so fast.
Correct.
That it's great that you're trained on that. And if you see some dinosaur company that's still using that, you'll be effective. But that's yesterday's news, and now we have to train you on something new that you may see. And lifelong learning is never been in season more than it is now, in my opinion, Orlando. What do you think?
I agree because things are moving so much. Things are always going in circles. Things are evolving. I just think that, definitely learning is the key. And I think more people are now more than ever willing to learn, instead of just saying, oh, I know, or I know somebody didn't know, or I got it. They're more willing, they're more receptive to learn and hear what needs to be said.
Awesome, Rob. Another great show for NIL4U. I mean, come on, Orlando Arnold, agent extraordinaire and NIL guru. Just exciting to have you, Orlando, and talk some shop. And man, a forever changing landscape, apparently. So, I guess it's going to keep all of us on our toes. And for everyone out there listening, man, so happy to be a part of NIL4U, and hope you're learning and gathering the nuggets from some of these brilliant people we're bringing on, because I know I am, man. I'm leaving every week, Rob, all fired up going, man, I learn 3 things every week. So it's great.
Yeah. Trent gets pumped up on this, and we're always covered. It's all about NIL, just different education, NIL for good, and like Trent said, having great guests like Orlando. Orlando, tell people real quick how they can find you.
Oh, I'm easy to find. You can find me on Instagram at OA the Agent. Same thing on Twitter. That's OATHEAGENT. LinkedIn is Orlando Arnold, MBA. And of course, if you want anything, Pyramid Sports Group, the website is www.pyramidsportsgroup.com. Other than that, I usually respond to most DMs. I'm approachable, so yeah, feel free to follow and connect if needed.
Well, that's great. Thanks again for being on, and you can find us on the sportepreneur.com. We're a bunch of different shows on there, sports related shows that are great, and you can find us all across the different podcast networks. And it's as always, Trent, it's great. I have fun working with you, and just want to continue helping people out in this new NIL landscape.
For sure. Till next time on NIL4U and Orlando Arnold, Rob Finkelstein, so fired up to always come to you for NIL4U. We'll see you on the next show.
Take care, everybody.